Almost since the beginning of human history, there have been empires that have controlled vast amounts of territory. Some of these empires managed to take control of territories that span 2 or more continents. Over time, however, empires gradually became a thing of the past, replaced by the modern nation-state. By the mid to late 20th century, the age of empires had all but ended, as most territories that were imperial possessions of certain powers gained their independence. Nevertheless, empires tend to leave a lasting legacy in the territory they conquer. They have helped shape the world that we know today. So, in this video, we will discuss the top 10 largest empires in the world. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more informative and amazing videos. Let's get into it. Number 1. British Empire. The foundations of the British Empire were laid when England and Scotland were separate kingdoms. It was composed of several self-governing nations, crown colonies, and external territories. It was administered by the United Kingdom. By 1913, the British Empire ruled over 412 million people. It was 23% of the world population at the time. The area of the British Empire was 35 million square kilometers, and it is 24% of the Earth's total land area. If we talk about its power, at the peak of its power, it was described as the empire on which the sun never sets, as the sun was always shining on at least one of its territories. Number 2. Mongol Empire. The Mongol Empire of the 13th and 14th centuries was the largest contiguous land empire in history. The Mongol Empire spanned territory in both Asia and Europe. In fact, at its height, it controlled most of the former. The empire began with the unification of Mongol tribes under the leadership of Genghis Khan in the early 13th century. Within about a half-century, the empire controlled a large part of Eastern Europe, most of Central Asia, and most of China. At its height in the mid to late 13th century, the borders of the Mongol Empire stretched from the Sea of Japan to Western Asia Minor, Anatolia, present-day Turkey, covering an area of 24 million square kilometers, and it is 17.8% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital is Khanbaliq, the official language is Middle Mongol, and the religion of the majority is Tengrism. Its currency is darius. Number 3. Russian Empire. The Russian Empire began as the Principality of Moscow, which consisted of the territories surrounding the present-day Russian capital. Motto of the people of the Russian Empire was God is with us. In the late 19th century, the Russian Empire expanded to include territory in the Caucasus and Central Asia. At its height, the borders of the empire stretched from the northern coast of Asia to the borders of present-day Afghanistan and Iran, and from the Bering Sea in the east to the eastern border of Germany in the west, covering a total area of 22.8 million square kilometers, and it is 16.9% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital is Moscow, and the largest city is St. Petersburg. Its official language is Russian, and the religion of the majority is Orthodox. Its currency is the Russian ruble. Number 4. Qing Dynasty. The Qing Dynasty was an imperial dynasty that ruled China from about the mid-17th century to the early 20th century. The origins of the Qing Dynasty, however, were not Chinese but Manchurian, which is why it is sometimes called the Manchu Dynasty. Manchuria is now the northeast region of China. In the 17th century, the Manchus conquered China and set up the Qing Dynasty after overthrowing the previous Ming Dynasty. At its height in the late 18th century, Qing territory comprised 14.7 million square kilometers, and it is 10.9% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital is Beijing, and the largest city is Peking. Its official language is Mandarin Chinese, and the religion of the majority was Chinese Buddhism. Its currency was yuan. Number 5. Spanish Empire. The Spanish Empire was a vast colonial empire covering large parts of North and South America, the Caribbean, and smaller territories elsewhere. At its height in the early 19th century, Spanish territory in North and South America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia covered a total of 13.7 million square kilometers, and it is 10.1% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital was Madrid. Its official language was Spanish, and the religion of the majority was Roman Catholicism. Its currency was the Spanish peseta. Number 6. Second French Colonial Empire. The Second French Colonial Empire began in the early to mid-19th century, following the period of the First French colonial empire. Like the UK, France once held many colonial possessions in all parts of the world. At its height in the early 20th century, France's Second Colonial Empire spanned 11.5 million square kilometers of territory, and it is 8.5% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital was Paris, and the religion of the majority was Catholicism. Its currency was the French franc. Number 7. Abbasid Caliphate. The Abbasid Caliphate was the third Islamic caliphate to succeed the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. The caliphate arose in the mid-8th century when the Abbasids overthrew the previous Umayyad Caliphate. It was during the rule of the Abbasid Caliphate that Islam's golden age began. At its peak, the caliphate's territory stretched from the western border of India in the east to the coast of North Africa in what is now Algeria in the west, covering 11.1 million square kilometers, and it is 8.2% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital was Cairo. Its official language was Classical Arabic, and the religion of the majority was Islam. Its currency was dinar. Number 8. Umayyad Caliphate. The Umayyad Caliphate was the second caliphate following the time of the Prophet Muhammad. It succeeded the Rashidun Caliphate in the mid-7th century and lasted until the mid-8th century when it was overthrown by the Abbasids. At its peak, the caliphate's territory stretched from the western border of India in the east to the coast of North Africa in what is now Algeria in the west, covering 11 million square kilometers, and it is 8.2% of the Earth's total land area. Its capital was Damascus, its official language was Arabic, and the religion of the majority was Islam. Its currency was dinar. Number 9. Yuan Dynasty Empire. The Yuan dynasty was the dynasty that emerged to rule China as the vast Mongol Empire broke up into separate empires in the mid to late 13th century. At its height, it controlled all of present-day China, as well as Mongolia and the Korean Peninsula, for a total of 11 million square kilometers of territory, and it is 8.1% of the Earth's total land area. In the mid-14th century, however, its power began to wane until it was finally replaced by the Ming dynasty. Its capital was Shangde, its official language was Middle Mongol, and the religion of the majority was Buddhism. Its currency was Zhuochao. Number 10. Xiongnu Empire. The people who created the Xiongnu Empire were nomads living in the eastern Eurasian steppe. The empire was founded by a person named Madu Chainyu in the early 3rd century BCE and was centered in the territory that would later become the domain of the Mongols. At its height in the late 2nd century BCE, the Xiongnu Empire's territory stretched from the Manchurian region of present-day China to about the eastern limit of Central Asia and totaled 9 million square kilometers of territory, and it is 6.6% of the Earth's total land area. So guys, that's all for today's topic. Make sure to subscribe my channel for more informative videos. See you soon in the next video. Goodbye.